You're listening to Season 3 of Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast. I'm Kimberly Evans, and I've been planning events, workshops, retreats, and socials for almost 20 years. After working with so many incredible clients and entrepreneurs, and personally experiencing hardship in life and business, I've discovered how powerful our mindset and purpose is in creating a life of joy and celebration while having a whole lot of fun along the way. Join me with a coffee or cocktail as I connect with inspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, tastemakers, and extraordinary people as they share their journey in life and business and how they are striving to live a life of purpose. Your fears and beliefs in yourself will be transformed as you work towards creating the best version of yourself from the inside out. You're in good company. Cheers to celebrating simple life. Today, on this very special 50th episode of Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, I'm chatting with Clio de Llave, founder of Booje Media, co-founder of Duet and Spade and Sparrows Wine, together with Caitlin Bristow. Clio built Booje Media before even knowing if social media was here to stay, but had a vision to help brands navigate the changing media landscape. She spends her days with her incredible team building partnerships, creating new brand concepts, and seeking new opportunities. She is fueled by green juice, chocolate, and positivity, and can often be found searching for adventures, doing yoga, and quite possibly drinking wine. Have you tried the Spade and Sparrows wine yet? If you've checked back on my Instagram stories at all, you will see that I have quite been enjoying this new brand. She is such a lovely person on the inside and out, and I am so excited for you to listen to our conversation today. So tune in.
Hello, Clio. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
This is so fun. I love how I've been saying this on episode after episode, especially in the last however many months. I think I've stopped counting during this world pandemic, of just the gratitude I have for how technology can continue to connect us with everyone around the world despite what's going on.
I know, it's amazing. There are, it's nice to be able to look at everything that's going on and looking at the positives, because there definitely are so many. And I can't imagine going through a pandemic when there was no computers or internet or a way that we could all still connect together. So in that respect, we are very lucky.
Oh, I totally agree. Well, this is so fun. I have so many things that I want to chat with you about today. So I just love your company and the way that you are putting yourself out there in the world. And I just want you to kind of share your story with my listeners as to how you dove into life as an entrepreneur and started your really cool company, Booje Media.
Oh, sure. Yes. I'll take you back. Well, I think like everyone, I went to school and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So when I graduated, I took a whole bunch of different classes, from everything from psychology to accounting. That definitely wasn't my favorite class. And then advertising. And then I really fell in love with that class, and that kind of guided me in the marketing and communications direction. And it's interesting because I don't know if I had ever grown up thinking that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but especially now looking back, I'm like, okay, it's definitely in my blood. And I think, it just kind of threw me into starting my own business at a really young age and not thinking about it too much, which I think now is probably a good thing. I didn't overthink anything. But I started, I did one internship at a really large advertising agency, which was a really good experience. And then from there, I went traveling for about a year, and not a year. Sorry, I took a year off, and I went traveling for a few months. And then I was like, I really want to start my own thing, and I started brainstorming on so many different ideas. And then I met with a friend that worked at an acting agency, and she's the one who brought up, she's like, hey, what we should look into is starting something where we can help actors with their social media accounts, because back then it was starting to impact how casting directors, who they would cast for their movies, right? And it makes sense if you have 200,000 followers versus 20,000, that's 200,000 people that you have access to promote your movie. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the first the first little insight on that. But so we started doing that, and we started talking to some of the actors and starting to, get on their Twitter. Back then it was only Twitter and Facebook. That was it. And so
I love it. I love how chatting about social media now has turned into something where we get to date ourselves yet again, where even I'd like tell my children, my kids, I'm like, yeah, like there was actually a time where the only way to talk with somebody was to just like call them.
Yeah.
Like wasn't any other way. And they're like, it's like mind blown. Like how did you live in such an old school world?
And it wasn't that long ago, which is crazy. And the part that I also find is so fascinating is before we even had cell phones, if you told someone you were meeting them at a certain place at a certain time, you had to be there because there's no canceling or telling them you were late.
You know
right?
what? And I feel like if we would actually look back, there's definitely pros and cons to both. There's times where I'm like, wow, that just seems like, can we just go back to that sometimes? Like it just would take like so much headache and stress like out of life, yet there's been so many incredible things that have come from technology. But yeah, it so definitely was simpler, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I'm like, oh, I can't even remember those days. But I remember loving ICQ. Did you ever use it? When I was like,
no, I didn't.
Oh, that was my favorite messaging platform.
I love it.
But that was a long time ago. So
you started with essentially just Twitter, you're saying?
Yeah, it was Twitter and Facebook. And interestingly enough, like we started talking to just a couple businesses. And I remember having listened to, it was Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was pretty new at the time. And he said to me, he's like, you just have to follow where the eyeballs go. And I don't know why, that kind of just like stuck with me. And I'm like, people are now really spending their time on Facebook, on Twitter, and cell phones. Like now people are on their mobile devices, and there's like smartphones. So we started pitching some businesses, and it's long story short, that ended up being like the avenue that we went, and businesses starting to need it. And that was about 10 or 11 years ago. And then throughout that journey, a lot has happened since, right? So then the company expanded just like naturally within, like there was like influencer marketing, and then with social media, there's so much content creation. Mm-hmm. So then we a lot of like photography, editing, styling, graphic design, just essentially content creation. And then through the influencer marketing, we started working with Julian Harris for one of the projects that she had done. And I really just loved and thought it was fascinating the way that she had really capitalized on the show, on being the Bachelorette, and and what she was doing. Yeah, and we love building brands. But I'm like, whoa, this is a person building a brand. And then I had a personal relationship with Caitlin Bristow, who went on the show The Bachelor, and she ended up becoming the Bachelorette. And even before she went on the show, we always said, like, you are going to be like in entertainment because she's so magnetic, she's so entertaining. We're like, okay, this is your avenue, like this is what's going to launch you. And because I had experience too working with Julian Harris, I was like, let's get a website for you, and if you want, we can, really start thinking strategically once you get off the show. But then she became the Bachelorette, which was even more incredible. So
these Canadian girls just making us proud, hey? Jillian.
No kidding.
Caitlin.
And even like, yeah, you think like Jillian and Caitlin are two, I think, of the Bachelorettes that have really gone on to like build something way bigger than just becoming an influencer after the show.
Well, yes. And I think what I love so much about both of their individual stories, which are so different and each their own individual things, is that they, while having not met either of them in person, but like anybody who you see somebody in the public eye, you feel like you know them just because they share so vulnerably and so authentically that you can't even imagine that they would be any different to just walk up to them in person than what you're seeing, because it's just so beautiful how I'm sure they have their moments behind closed doors of like, oh my goodness, like hard to be in the public eye all the time. But it just seems so natural and real, and it's refreshing just to hear them be honest about everything in their lives.
And it is, like, what you see is what you get with them. Like, obviously I know both of them, and they are exactly the way they're on their social media. And I think they did it at a time where everyone was trying to have like a certain image on social media. So especially then, it was just so refreshing. And I think that people just connect with them on such a different level and feel better about themselves too, to be like, oh my God, you look up to this person is amazing, but they also had a hard day. Okay. And then it makes them just be a little less hard on themselves.
Yes, 100%. I just love that so much. So I love that you mentioned that you, I guess, if Jillian was one of your clients, but then mentioning that you already had a friendship with Caitlin prior to you guys working together. But how did you find when you initially started? Because I know that this is a question that I get often from listeners, is how did you find that with you deciding to take the leap into approaching individuals or businesses in the entertainment sector, first of all, that I can imagine is a pretty brave thing to try to do, to jump into an industry where there's so much competition and there's so much, I don't know, just in the public eye about this, for you to feel like, okay, yeah, this is the area that I want to dive in. How did you just decide to jump into that and then feel confident to reach out and make the connections that you needed to do to take your business to the place that you knew you could take it?
Yeah, I think it's like, and again, I think that this happens to like a lot of entrepreneurs, is that you just don't really think about it too much. You dive into it and you figure it out. And I think that's one thing that I've really realized just being in business and in different industries, is that at the end of the day, like, especially in this world, like no one is an expert, like no one is like knows 100% what they're doing all the time. So if you're willing to like work hard and figure it out, you will. Like it's not rocket science.
I love that. That's great, because I think it's easy to look at somebody's business or even just the snippets that we see on social media and just assume that, especially when you're having a bad day and maybe like questioning whatever you're doing in your own life, to look at someone else and say, oh, wow, this must have been so easy for you. This just looks like everything fell together in a perfect little puzzle. How did you do that, right?
Yeah. And it definitely, like, there are some days that you're like, oh, wow, I do feel a bit overwhelmed, but you just have to figure it out.
Totally.
That is normal. And I think it is an interesting industry because a lot of it does build on networking. But that's something I really enjoy doing, and I feel it comes a little bit natural to me. So I think it might be different if I was way more of like an introvert or someone who didn't enjoy that, who preferred, there's different types of people. So for me, it just seemed like it came quite natural.
I love that. And that's so true. I feel like, I love that you just said it's not rocket science, because that really is. It's hard sometimes if you're just new to starting a business or you're trying to make new connections and you have maybe specific ideas as to where you want to be connected, it's hard sometimes to just take that leap. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, I've been in the event planning marketing industry for almost 20 years now. And even in the last 7-8 months of this world pandemic, when things have been very different in the way that we are able to connect with other human beings, it has almost spurred me on to have more courage to just say, you know what, anything's possible. I am going to reach out to the person who I have never met before but really admire their work and see if we can connect. I'm going to interview somebody on the podcast or reach out to them about something that we do in business that might be a fit, just because what do we have to lose, right?
That's incredible. Absolutely. And you definitely, can tell, have that personality that is very outgoing and easy to talk to. So one thing that I've realized is like really playing into your strengths and using what you enjoy doing, what you're good at, to do things that you love.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And I think there's no one right way to grow a business, to run a business, to start a business, to pivot in business. It's all exactly what you just said. Like, I think sometimes I hear people saying that it's almost like they're waiting for this magic formula to sort of just be spelled out to them. Like, oh, well, you're doing this in your business, so what if I do this and see if this works for me? And sure, there's probably certain aspects of things that, yes, you could do, but you're right. Like there's so many different avenues of ways that this can come about. And if you're not loving what you do and you're not passionate, or you're feeling constantly in a state of fear rather than, wow, this is really fun and exciting, that's going to like project itself onto your business and not shine your light in the way that you probably could. Hey?
Yes, you have to enjoy it. And it's interesting too, because this time has been interesting for a lot of people. And I think for you as a prime example that, you know, being in the event space, as my boyfriend's in the event space too, so I know it's clearly, it's just not the best time for that, but it allows you to have space to focus on other things. And a lot of times, like when you're focusing on your business, it's really hard to do all these other things that you want to. So if you have the opportunity to switch gears and focus on those things and take advantage of this time, sometimes this is when like new ideas come up, or like you're doing right now, you're trying something new, and that could be a new passion or a really good added value to your business. So it is nice to have a bit of space to just take a step back and refocus or reevaluate, because like you said, every business is different and they all grow just differently. So yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's so true. So how have you found that, we'll use the example, I guess, even just within the last year, but even in the last 10, 11 years of your business, how have you found creative ways to build partnerships and to connect with others? What would you say are some of the things that you're intentionally doing on a day-to-day basis to kind of keep yourself in the know with what's going on in your industry and just connecting and meeting new people from all over?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is just being on social media, funny enough. And for me, I would say the platform that I use the most in terms of just trying to understand like what's going on is Instagram right now. Obviously, those platforms have changed like during the last few years. Like I remember when I first started, because it was so new and because businesses were trying to understand how it worked, I definitely read a lot of online articles, and I go to Fast Company or Inc., or even there's like a ton of social media websites that were focused on that. But now I feel like I've gotten to the point where it's more so like just really trying to understand how people are using these social media platforms and who's on them and what people are resonating with. And I feel like the best way to do that is to actually just go on the platform and see. So yeah, I would say that. And in terms of like collaborating, I've always been a big fan of collaborating, and I just think there's always like power in the numbers, and it's more fun too. So
Yes.
It's always looking at companies where the values and the beliefs are very similar to our company, and then, you know, not being afraid of just like reaching out and asking. And I feel like those are always the really fun parts of your job, is getting to connect with other businesses, see how they do things, and just talking about them through your platform and vice versa. And then new people get to know about your brand. But yeah, I love collaborations.
Well, and isn't it interesting how sometimes when you have an idea for a collaboration yourself, or somebody reaching out to you for something, where sometimes the initial idea, you're like, I would have like maybe never thought that this would be the type of thing that would work. And interesting how ideas that sometimes we think might not work are the ones that just pivot you into a completely different place, where all of a sudden these different doors are opening with connections that have randomly kind of come from things that may not have been sort of an initial like wow idea in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's just so normal that you get so like a tunnel vision, or just you're so used to doing things a certain way. So that's why I do think that there's so many positives that come out of collaboration, because then you get to work with other teams, and like you said, it's like every team thinks differently as well. So you get to get like an injection of new ideas or new perspective, which is always so nice. And I think it's recognizing that and being able to yourself take a step back in that moment and be like, oh yeah, let's try something new. Let's not be afraid of it, because I never want to stay stagnant or keep doing the same thing, because then I think I would just get bored.
Totally. Well, and that's part of the joy of being an entrepreneur, right? Like even in the industry that you're in, and you have your hand in a few different businesses, but it kind of keeps every day have some similarities, yet a lot of differences. And for myself, when I decided to start my own business, that was literally the number one thing that was important to me. Was I cannot have the same day feel like Groundhog Day every single day for the rest of my life. I am just not cut out for this. So, right?
No, me neither. No, thank you.
Well, and for some people, I think that's kind of scary. Yeah, some people hate it, some people love it. I don't know if there's a lot of gray area here. I think it's either something you love or something that you hate, and that maybe is what separates the entrepreneurs from others.
And it's nice to just know what you like too, and so you recognize that. But yeah, that's where some people love routine and know exactly what to expect. But for me, I just lose focus and excitement for it, and I'm like, Kate, what's next?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I'm the exact same way. I love that. So continuing on in your story, how then, as you grew Booje Media and have sort of evolved into some of the services and offerings that you would do in your business, how then has that led you to get involved and collaborate with your friend Caitlin, who you are now not only friends with, but business partners on a few really cool businesses?
Yeah. So, and it's been really interesting and fun, because when Caitlin and I started working together, we were friends, but we hadn't known each other for that long, and it was more so like we would always see each other in like fun outings,
right?
Like friends' birthdays and stuff. And so it's been really interesting and so cool working together so closely for this many years, and that too, like our relationship grew in a business sense, but also as a friendship. And I think it is special when you are in this type of industry and you find someone that you work so well with, and there is so much trust and it's just been a really nice growth. And also, like, I see all the potential that Caitlin has, and she's always like willing to take on more, because she definitely has a lot on her plate. But one thing that we talked about was starting something, but not doing anything that didn't feel like 1,000% authentic. And I think going back to just her being so real with her, with everyone, on social media. And so that's something that became really important to her. And so she started a podcast about 3 years after the show called Off the Vine, and it did so well. And I think that was a bit of a pivotal moment for her, because people could really almost feel like they got a couple hours 2 hours that they could hang out with Caitlin each week, and to know her on a different, more personal level. And that's what I think there's such a interesting and impactful way that podcasts can change your brand. And then so here I feel like people just really became so much more connected to Caitlin. So there's two things. Like when we were in Hawaii, I realized that Caitlin always wore scrunchies, and I ended up wearing one of her scrunchies, and I'm like, oh my God, your hair, like, this is amazing. Like after the pool, just like the way that it doesn't pull on your hair, it doesn't break your hair. And Caitlin was big on just getting her hair back to a healthy state after the show. And so we talked about it, and she's like, oh my God, we should start a scrunchie company. So again, it was super organic and natural, and that happened pretty quickly, and started that, and we couldn't believe the response that it had. And again, I think it was because it was something that she loved so much.
Well, and I love it when ideas like this come up in the most random of places. Like, hey, why don't we just swim over to the swim-up bar over here while we're hanging out in Hawaii and talk scrunchies and decide to start a business?
I remember, I put it on and I was going, I love it, and I had to give it back. I'm like, no, but I want to keep wearing it.
Totally. You have another one? I love it.
I'll get back to the show in 20 seconds, but I wanted you to be the first to know about the new event I've created just for you. The Curated Content Social is a networking photo shoot that simplifies the content that you need to show up authentically on your social media. Imagine gathering together with a dozen amazing business owners to connect, grow, and learn more about each other's businesses while having a fun night out. And it's all photographed. This event only happens once a month and tickets sell out fast. This is all about helping you to create an abundant mindset to thrive in business and show up just as you are. To join in the fun, visit celebratingsimplelife.com to save your spot or connect with Celebrating Simple Life on Instagram. All right, friend, back to the show.
And that's just been really fun because with it just became, because of the nature, like we just made it some scrunchies and they sold out so fast. So then we had to make some more, and then we just would keep putting back like what we made from the scrunchies, putting it back into making more inventory. So it became a bit of a cycle, but it also just naturally created a company that was born on like collections. And so every time we would make new scrunchies, and it wasn't necessarily like we wanted to keep doing new, come up with new product. Again, going back to like we never wanted to stay stagnant, but also just, you can always buy fabric that we bought for the last collection, because in fashion everything just moves so quickly. Yeah. And so it was really cool, and that became the model of the business. So we just do every 6 weeks or so, we just drop scrunchies, and then now it's now we have some headbands, and we've expanded a bit in our product line. And then the second thing, and it happened kind of during around the same time, but obviously I think that we had always said that Caitlin it would be amazing if she could have her own wine label. But I also think that Caitlin was like, I don't know, like that seems crazy. Like that seems a little bit out of reach, to have your own wine label. So we actually have another business partner from Vancouver, and he's a friend and was Caitlin's lawyer. And he started looking into, just like what it would look like to start it. So we kind of we're like, let's do it. And we started researching that. But that's been something that I think Caitlin's like still can't believe that she has her own wine label, because she truly loves wine so much. And anyone that knows her knows that she loves wine. Cool, if that could be more authentic.
Right? Yes. What could be more authentic? I love that. Like the name of her podcast, just obviously, I mean, even on The Bachelorette, like the show, like you're seeing, I mean, you don't know what their drinks are. There's just a lot of drinks that are flowing so good, but wine was always present. So I love the idea.
It's very on brand.
It's very on brand. Totally. We wear our scrunchies, we drink our wine. I love it. I love that it's such a big, lofty goal. I think sometimes as women, we feel like we're just not supposed to dream that big. Like, have your dreams, but don't dream that big. Like, that's maybe a little too much. You're being a little extra right now, And I think we're like always being told that subliminally a little bit. And if we have the confidence to kind of say, like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, I'm going to go for it. And whether it fails or whether it succeeds, I've still decided I'm going to go for my dreams. And I know for myself, I'm raising 2 daughters. So as I look at them growing up, this is what I want them to say. I want them to dream big. I want them to say, hey, I've decided I'm going to start my own wine label, and have no idea where to begin, but to know that that's part of the process.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting, too, and I feel like now in the last few years, like it is nice to see so many more resources and books and shows and podcasts that really do keep encouraging people to, like, put it out there. Like, you dream big. I think it's just, like, thinking that there's nothing that is wrong about putting that down and putting it out there. It might not happen, but that's going to be up to you, right? I think it's just there's such a powerful thing that comes to about dreaming as big as you want, and you shouldn't stop yourself because you think that you can't do it.
100%. Well, and second of all, the wine is delicious. So I'm just going to say that. We're just going to put a little plug out for the Spade and Sparrow wine.
Which one did you try?
Okay, so I have only thus far tried the rosé, and full disclosure, I'm normally not a rosé fan, but my bestie and I decided that we needed to go try this immediately as soon as it was available in Saskatchewan, because you guys had your different launches throughout the U.S. and provinces in Canada on different dates and stuff based on whatever it's based upon. And we went out on the couple weeks ago when it was available in Saskatchewan, and it was so funny because the guys that worked at there was like a few select stores in our city that had it available. So you had to go to the right store to get it. You could just go anywhere. And so we went into the store to go get it. And my friend and I who went together, we live in different cities. And so she happened to be in my city for work. And so we met up, got the wine. We were waiting until we could be together because we're like, hey, this is so fun. New wine launch. Let's go get our wine. And the guys in the store were just like, I think they were in awe of the fact as to how many women were coming into the store specifically like on a mission, blinders on, not looking at any other products, but like, where's the Spade and Sparrow wine? Like, and there's like cute display set up, and like the branding and labels are so pretty, obviously, and they're like on brand. And Caitlin has her picture up on the display, and so we of course go get our wine. We're like being all ridiculous and taking pictures in the store and just having fun because we're trying to find very creative ways to have fun these days amidst not being able to travel and doing lots of other things. And so they were laughing their heads off, and so we're asking them as we're paying upon checkout at the store if they watch The Bachelor, if they know who Caitlin Bristow is. And they were like looking at us and they're like, yeah, like my wife and my daughter, they know. They were like listing off all the women in their life that they knew were watching. And so we informed them that our husbands watch the show with us and that they might want to consider just getting more involved in the brand.
Very much appreciate that. That's
it was very funny. But we tried the rosé. It happened to be a lovely evening. We sat on the deck, enjoyed the rosé, and we actually shared it on our Instagram, had a little story about it because it was so good. And I'm not usually a rosé fan, but it was so good.
Yes, I will say, so this is our second round, and we changed producers, so now the wine is made in Sonoma, and I have to say, like, these three varietals or these three new wines are incredible. Like, they're just so easy drinking, and I think that's what Caitlin wanted. Like, when she was tasting the wine, she's like, first of all, I want to love it, and I want it to be something that everyone is going to enjoy drinking, because wine can get, like there are some that get a little bit more like, I don't know, earthy or more complicated, and with these ones they're just so easy to drink, which is trouble.
Which is trouble. So I have a bottle of red sitting in my wine cabinet waiting for this weekend. So actually it's like, I think we're going to enjoy it sooner than later. So it was so good.
My God,
I can't wait to try the red.
The red, I feel like, seems to be the fan favorite. It's very smooth, but I like it because for a Pinot Noir, Caitlin usually goes for Pinots, and for me, sometimes I feel like they can be a little bit light. Like when I'm drinking a red, I'd like something a little bit smoother. But I find that for this Pinot, this one's actually quite smooth. It doesn't seem like it's not too light. So I'll be curious. You'll have to let me know what you think.
I will definitely
I
will share my feedback with you. I'm always a red wine as my go-to, so I was saving this because I was excited to have the red.
Saving it for the weekend.
Yes, saving it for the weekend. However, these days, sometimes the middle of the week, nothing wrong with it on a Tuesday night, but
it's really hard to know what day it is.
What
anymore.
day is it? That's right. Every day is happy hour around here, so that makes me happy.
I have to say, I definitely drink more than I used to. Like, it is nice to just open a bottle of wine and have a glass while you're cooking, whereas, like, I never used to do that, but those little things you got to look forward to now.
You know what? It is. It's like little sparks of joy that you can look forward to in your day, and you're like, you know what? It's time. We're cracking the bottle. We're having a glass of wine. This is my joy today. Yes.
Yes.
I love it. So,
I love it.
What would you say inspires you the most in your own life and the way that the businesses that you've created on your own and with business partners, how you get to help others and show up in the world?
Oh, that's a good question. So what inspires me the most?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in terms of creating, the businesses, I think that for me, I'd really like to push myself. For me, I feel like it's weird. Sometimes I think of it as just, it's a huge learning curve. And I love learning and setting things out and, like getting it done. And obviously there's a high when you get there, when you have those successes, and there is that high, and then you take that energy and you roll it on to the next thing. Like, I think that I really like also putting out a product that people love. And I think one of the coolest things, and this is obviously due to like Caitlin and her personality, but it's been incredible being part of two businesses, which is Do and Spade and Sparrows, that have created a whole community. And it's unbelievable to see these like women that come together. Like, there's so many women like there's a group of women, I believe there's like, I don't even know how many there are now, but at least like 10, 11 or 12, and they all connected, and they started connecting on a Facebook page. And obviously before the pandemic, they started traveling and doing these trips where they all get to meet, and they all met because they loved scrunchies and they were part of the scrunchie gang. And
that.
this is like, that's just one example. Like, I feel like even too, seeing this community grow in Spade and Sparrows, and just seeing how people reach out and it becomes more than just the brand, and so I feel like that inspires us as a team, just that alone, and trying to make sure that we keep doing things that they love and that can involve them in different ways, so that they also feel part of the brand, because then it becomes bigger, right? Again, going back to like powers in the numbers. So yeah, I feel like that definitely inspires me, and just also getting to work with incredible people, and you learn from each other. And I think that I just love to learn. Like, I love to keep growing, and you can't stay stagnant. Like, you have to keep thinking of ways of how you're going to grow, how you're going to stay competitive, and how you're going to keep blowing people away with new things.
Yes. I love that. Well, and I think that's what I've resonated so much with, as I've seen the way that following your Booje Media company on Instagram and social, and connecting with you today, just hearing your passion in your business. I think that's what is so beautiful, is because I love that for my own business in the event planning world, that I get to create experiences for people to have more joy in their lives. I like that what I get to do gets to do that for people. I get to create things where they have new experiences. It's sparking new things in their mind. It's creating new connections for them. It's passing along to them that they can do great things in their businesses as well. And you kind of just feel like you're able to pay it all forward as you work together. And that's what I love. Like, even the story you just shared with the scrunchie gang, these women, like, your brand and your business of scrunchies and now wine as well gets to actually speak joy and fun into people's lives in order for them to feel like they get to live a life that is more fulfilling and do things that are fun and enjoyment, rather than just feeling mundane and going through the motions of life without really having any vibrancy to it.
Oh, you said it is so right. Absolutely. And the friendships have been born from it, and the space that you're in, we do events, and we did Caitlin's tour, and I think it is such a high and such a rewarding feeling, because you're right, like, you get to create all these events to make people happy and to bring them together and to bring some excitement in their day and their life, and it's a good feeling, and that keeps you going. That alone just keeps you going.
That's right. And on the days that are just crap and that nothing feels like it's going right, we need to reflect on these days of happy hour and scrunchies and traveling and thinking about all of the amazing things that are coming from businesses, even when it's hard, because it is hard a lot of the time, and it isn't just all fun and dancing and scrunchies and wine. Business is hard. And so I think it's really cool that we get to see best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of organization and planning and coordination to get that. wedding planners and event planners and all this. I'm like, that's crazy how much organization you need. So good for you, because that's the one thing I don't have is organization.
Well, it's funny because I always laugh because I'm like, it always, like, people on social media only ever really see, besides whatever else I share, but they only ever really see the end result. So I always almost find it humorous when we're like sharing these like beautiful parties, everything looks so great, and you realize this is literally what's only happening for like a couple of hours, and all of the rest of the 100 hours that you put in towards this one particular 3-hour event was actually all
they
like
don't see that.
yoga pants, sweating your face off, looking like a wreck, stressed, laying awake at night, all of these other things that don't capture so well on Instagram.
No, yeah.
I love it. So before we wrap this all up today, I want to just get to know you a little bit more specifically. So I love just sort of having a few speed fun questions to hear a little bit more about details about your life. So I have 9 questions for you. So what is one thing that you do in the morning that sets the tone for your day?
I would say my washing my face routine. So it just feels so good to wash your face and then put your creams on, and I just really enjoy that moment. So then it just sets me for the day. I
love that. Are you a coffee drinker? And if so, what is your coffee order?
Yes, definitely love my coffee. I would say I have 2. I rotate between 2. One is a drip coffee with it's a hazelnut hemp creamer. That's amazing. Or an oat milk cappuccino, extra dry.
Oat milk's really making its way to the top of the charts around here. I'm going to be honest, I have not tried it yet, but all I hear is these rave reviews about oat milk.
I love oat milk. It's my favorite. I don't like almond milk, and I'm trying not to eat dairy. And then I find that oat is just a bit more like creamier. It's really good in coffee. Okay, well, you've inspired me. That is going to be on my grocery order this week. Yes, it has to be. What is something that you always have in your purse for day-to-day or when you travel, something you just can't live without? Okay, so this is interesting because other than when I'm going to work or traveling, I actually never use a purse anymore. I have my phone that has the credit card slots on them, so then I just have my 2 credit cards and ID. So I never wear a purse anymore, which is crazy. And I don't know if it's because of COVID, but it's been about a year now, and I love not wearing a purse. I love the simplicity of that. Yes, it's just like I don't like to carry too much stuff, and I always found I had so much stuff in my purse, and I never used any of it. Totally. When then your back starts to feel sore, and you're like, wow, like I feel sore. I'm like carrying around this heavy bag that I'm using nothing of. Yeah, so just my phone really is what I carry around, which is, I guess, all I need, and money. But then when I do travel, I love to have my wireless headphones. Yes, that's a good one. That's amazing. What do you indulge in your favorite junk food? Oh, chocolate. Like I have such a sweet tooth, but I would say chocolate, and especially Lindt chocolate. Yum. Oh, so good. I know. That is me too. So chocolate. Good. Like every day of the week. Like if it was just a part of the 4 food groups, I think I would just choose that for life. Same. That and bread. Funny story for you about Lindt chocolate. Years and years ago, when I was a server, just trying to make my way in the late teens, early adulthood, I worked at a prominent hotel in our city, and most of the time when like celebrities or people that would come in, that would kind of be the hotel they would choose to stay in downtown. And I worked in the restaurants in there, and a person from Lindt chocolates stayed at the hotel once, just somebody that was like in town, like repping the chocolates, I don't know what, going and connecting with businesses that sold Lindt products or whatever. But they would come into the restaurant like all the time for dinner after they were done working for the day, and he would leave heaps and heaps of chocolates on the tables for all of us servers just because he was like an ambassador of Lindt. So we would just be
crushing the chocolates in the back to the point where I actually had to take a Lindt hiatus for a little while because I'm like, I feel like this is like turning into a problem.
You're like, this is just too much.
Right? Oh, I love it.
I'd be the same because I cannot control myself. It would be dangerous.
It's dangerous. Yeah, it has to just not make its way into the online grocery order and not enter the house, and then we're fine. But if it's in the house, it's just game over. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Totally game over.
Okay, so what was the very first concert you ever attended, if you can remember, or maybe most memorable?
Well, yeah, I have the worst memory, which I'm like, of course I can't remember what my first concert was. I think it would be Backstreet Boys because I was so obsessed with them. And I believe they were my first concert, but if not, when I did see them in concert, my most memorable. Like, I couldn't believe that I was breathing the same air as them.
Like, how is this even possible? I love it. Were they in Vancouver?
Yeah. Yes, in Vancouver.
Oh, I love it. I never had the chance to see them live. Like, some things you just have regrets for life on. Here's one of them.
Oh, that's one of, actually, funny enough, Caitlin and I just went to Vegas last year, and we went to one of their shows, and literally they came into the crowd, and Nick Carter was the one that I was obsessed with. Like, he was my Backstreet Boy. Yes. And yes. He came in the middle of the crowd, and he was literally right in front of me on this, like, it was crazy. I'm like, I could have just, like, put my arm out and touched him, and I told myself, if my 12-year-old self could know that this happened, I just wouldn't even believe it. It was insane. It's so funny how you have those crazy crushes when you're young, and it just stays with you forever, like that feeling, like being like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Yeah, 100%. Mine is John Stamos, and I did have his arm around me, and almost was like, my husband was like, don't leave me. Or Uncle Jesse.
Oh, he was yours. Where were you?
He was
like, how did that happen?
Well, we met the whole cast of Full House. This is a whole nother podcast episode. We met the whole cast of Full House when my daughter was granted a children's wish because she has cystic fibrosis. And so we flew to LA 4 years ago now and went to watch a taping of Fuller House, and the whole gang was present on the day we were there. We weren't sure who we were all going to meet. We weren't sure if some of the classics were going to be present. And who greeted us with a smile? Uncle Jesse. Like, it was so cool. Yeah,
that's
it was really
incredible.
Cool. Yeah, we could just go on for hours. We could go on for hours about this, but I will
yes,
rein it in. But I hear you. Yeah, like, you have these, like, posters up in your room and locker when you're younger, and, like, you just can't imagine that these are going to be people that you meet in adulthood, and it's just as exciting as an adult.
It really is. Oh my God! Now thinking of all the posters. And actually, funny enough, JTT was one of them, and I ended up having lunch with him because he ended up being friends with my friends like 10 years later. Like, what is going on? Anyway,
I love it. Right? Like, okay, maybe we'll do a whole nother episode in the near future of celebrity meet and greets and how you feel like you're going to be like. I'm not the type of person to get really like hyped up about, like, they're all just regular people, right? They're just regular people, but you have these visions of what you know them from, and you feel like you know them even though we totally don't. That you just like play it cool, don't overreact.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love it. So what is one thing that you love to do in your free time?
Well, I really enjoy being with the people I love. Like, I'm very social, and I feel like that's how I get re-energized. And it's essentially just like being with my friends, whether it's going out for dinners, sitting in my friends' backyards, or, you know, doing anything like that, like having a glass of wine. And I'm also, like, on my free time, I'm notorious for, if I'm like, I'll pick one place to have appies and first drink, then we'll go to the next place for dinner, and then we'll find another place for dinner.
I love it. Like, progressive dinner every night. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoy that. I feel like that's what I do the most.
I love that. I'm so going to adopt that strategy. That's a great idea. And then there's so many places always I find, like you can't fit in all of the places you want to try. So that's a great way to kind of fit them in multiple.
Exactly. You just kill a couple of birds, one stone.
Brilliant. What is your favorite travel destination or place you hope to go to next once the world reopens a little bit more as we know it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I would say like my favorite travel destination is France and Italy. I just love Europe. I just love everything about it. But where I would like to go next once the world reopens, I would say, going back to France or Italy. Just the happiest there.
Oh my goodness, that sounds beautiful. I have not yet had the opportunity to travel through Europe. I have been to many, many places around the world, but I have never been to Europe. And it is high on the list of places that I want to go.
Yes, that will have to be, once everything reopens, that has to be your next place.
Definitely. Okay, sold. What does owning a business is a lot of work and we're busy all of the time. So if you could have a day to do whatever you wanted, what would you include in that day? You've already listed some of the things that I'm sure you probably would also include.
But if I have like a day off, like I love just like getting in the car and doing like fun adventures. Like I love doing like a day road trip. And it's the whole experience. Like I love getting in the car, stopping near like your favorite coffee shop, getting a coffee for the road, and then just like along the way stopping if you see a good lunch spot or if there's somewhere where to do like a hike or I love doing day trips. I love visiting new places, and I always find you have such good conversations in the car. So if I go with my mom or my boyfriend or my friends, like I always feel like the car time is when you just have such good conversations.
Oh my goodness, you are speaking my language. That is exactly, that is so fun. And what I love about day trips also is that there's no pressure to feel like you have to remember and pack everything. It feels so easy, right? You can just well, for you, not even a purse. You're just grabbing your phone these days. You don't even need to be packing a bag. You can just kind of jump in and go, right? There's no, I got to remember my whole wardrobe and this and that and everything else for even a one overnight, right? That's just so easy.
So easy. It just keep it super light and just go somewhere. And I also love it because when you do those days, there's no plans, right? So then you just stop where you want to. You kind of see what you want to see, or you get there and you Google where should I go. So I just find that's always just a good adventure day. Makes me very relaxed.
Well, it's just refreshing to kind of give your mind a little bit of a break from decision fatigue. Hey, just going with the flow instead of having to follow a schedule.
And being disconnected.
Yeah. Oh, love it. So, of course, I have to ask one last question because we've been talking about wine so much throughout this. What is your favorite wine?
Oh, it is Spade and Sparrows.
It has to be. It has to be. And
it really is.
Are
so
you red, white, rosé? Which is
Oh, this is a hard one because I know this is going to sound so cliche, but it is depending on where I am because, I love red, in the winter or when it's raining out. I love the red. The Pinot really is so smooth. But in the summer, I love, super chilled, either the Pinot Grigio or the Rosé. The Pinot Grigio is more citrusy. So if I'm feeling something a little bit more zing, I'll have the Pinot Grigio. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to pick because I really think it's just dependent on the day.
I love it. So good. Well, I, for one, am very excited to crack the red this weekend, so I will let you know how it goes.
So am I.
Well,
can't wait to hear what you think of it.
Right? I will definitely let you know. This has been so lovely getting to know you and hearing your story. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and honestly about your business and your life, and you are just putting yourself out there in such an amazing way in the world. And thank you so much for sharing your story with me today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun, and I'm now, and I can't wait for number 2 when we talk about our or high school crushes.
Right, to be continued. Stay tuned, people. This is going to come because I feel like this is going to need to be like a 4-hour marathon of going through all of the details.
We'll have part 4.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much.
No, but this is so much fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, is a proud member of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network, which is supported by Connexus. Does money spark joy in your life or cause you stress? If you said stress, you're not alone. For 42% of Canadians, their biggest stressor comes from money. At Connexus, they care about your financial well-being. Money doesn't have to be stressful, and Connexus is here to help. The Connexus Money Talk blog provides expert advice, tips, and solutions for all life stages and events. Getting married, buying a house, budgeting, saving, they cover it all and more. And did I mention it's free? Check it out today at connexusmoneytalk.ca and start feeling confident and stress-free about your money. This show would not be possible without you, my incredible listeners. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to Celebrating Simple Life on Apple Podcasts or download and listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you choose to listen. If you really want to make my day, leave a review. These reviews, ratings, and sharing screenshots of podcast episodes that were engaging for you on your Instagram stories and tagging friends that you think should hear the episode too really helps the podcast grow. It makes me so happy that I often select reviews to read on the show, and if yours is chosen, you will receive a special gift from me. Thank you for being a part of my mission to connect stories of business and life. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life.